Yeah, they've lost 16 out of 17. While the Indians have won 21 in a row.
I'm not trying to laugh, but it's funny.
And then, and even last night they were winning, and the closer is one of the best in baseball. Loaded the bases in the ninth inning before striking out the last two.
Oh, here we are. We're live, bro. Oh, feedback.
Yeah, why am I getting feedback? Oh, I know why.
Well, I didn't mute Twitter or Twitch.
I didn't mute Hangouts.
Ooh, that could be it too.
Alright, I think I'm good to go.
Yep, I'm just gonna put a tweet in the guild chat. And into the... See if we can get someone from the trap run to come in. Dude, we're... See, I think what you don't understand is that, like, as soon as I press live on Twitch, that's, like, recorded, and then it goes up. Okay. As long as you understand, then you're good.
Yeah, who sees it? Our patrons? Like, no. They don't know.
All of Twitter? Or all of Twitch?
Hi, Twitch.
Fucking A. All right.
There's only 2 people watching us, and it's us.
Well, let me get the bumpers going. Bumpers.
You're a bumper.
Thanks. All right. Ready?
I'm ready. I've been ready for about 4 freaking hours. Wow.
That's way too loud.
No, I was just kidding. Actually, considering we're only 10 minutes late, that's pretty damn good.
It's pretty good considering the day I've had.
Yeah.
Anyway. But here we are. And let's do it.
Blast came from the Death Star. That thing's operational.
Dr. Banner. Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Oh, hello and welcome to episode 111 of The Usual Podcast, a podcast where we discuss Star Wars The Old Republic, the Star Wars franchise, and geek and pop culture. I'm your host, Marshall, and with me is my co-host, Will. What's up, buddy?
Hey, I thought we were both pausing.
Well, I was going to edit mine out, but now we're both doing it. So, yeah, we're starting the show. How you doing, dude?
I am doing good.
That's wonderful news. And we're just sitting here enjoying our usual frosty beverages. What you drinking, dude?
Tonight, I am drinking a very nice scrimshaw that you have given to me.
Yeah, scrimshaw.
How about you? What are you drinking?
Well, scrimshaw, it's North Coast Brewing Company. It's literally not even a mile from here. It's
some of our students work there.
Yeah, at the restaurant. Popular brewery.
It is. I have not been there.
You've never been to the brewery?
I've never been there.
We should go.
We should.
Well, we didn't have to have this conversation on mic, I guess.
If we ever actually get to go to dinner before we podcast again.
Oh, God, I miss those days. I miss those days where I wasn't shuffling kids around and doing stuff like before we record. Like, I was like, okay, wife, here's the children. Let's go do a thing.
Yeah.
Boy, my schedule is porked right now. But anyway, I am enjoying a West Coast IPA from Green Flash Brewing Company. And out of San Diego. I love it.
Very cool. But I got to go back a second. Did you say borked?
Borked.
Borked?
Borked with a B.
Okay.
You never heard that expression?
Never heard borked.
Interesting.
I've heard boinked. Yeah.
There we go. So before we get started, if you have comments or questions, you can find us at theusualpodcast.com. Email us at theusualpodcast@gmail.com. And we're on Facebook, Google+, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. I am at Darth Pops on Twitter, and Will is, of course, at I am Will Griggs. We're on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play. So take the time, give us positive ratings. Still stuck at that number, dude. Still stuck at that number.
Let's get that number up
on the iTunes, on the Wadio. Anyway, we do have the timestamps in the show notes. If you're not a SWTOR fan, we don't have a ton of SWTOR this week. But we do have some Star Wars news, so you don't want to stick around for that for sure. But thanks to everybody in the chat room and who's coming and going, and please participate. We would love to chat with you. So should we get to Star Wars The Old Republic, dude?
Absolutely.
One day I want you to just say no, and then we just end the show.
That would be classic.
And then I publish that.
That would be classic.
It's like a 4-minute episode where you just say, nope, I'm not ready, and then we just end it. Why would I publish it, though?
I don't know. I'm looking at the show notes though, and looking at what you did this week.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you did Heriox.
I'm starting the bumper.
Okay.
You want to fight? I'm ready.
You do not have to stand against me. Instead, I will share all of this with you, if you will only kneel.
So, dude, we're gonna start Star Wars: The Old Republic this week, talking about what we together did in game.
We actually played together in game.
In Star Wars: The Old Republic, the game that you and I used to play together quite often, and now it's a rare occurrence indeed.
Very rare.
What did we do this week, dude?
Well, we had something that we had to postpone from the previous week that Mox and everybody had Passionately Casual and
mostly influencers. A lot of influencers.
A lot of people from our guild, but it's mostly the influencers. It's all the people that do the children's charity Extra Life every year. But they definitely stepped up, and we played to raise some money for Houston.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did Terra from Beyond, 16-man. Oh yep. Boy, it started a little earlier, so it was a little early evening entertainment. We got through it, but
I have still not survived, even though I've won a few. The thing that sucks is
I died towards the end on that last run.
Yeah, well, I'm a squishy sniper, but the thing is because I'm usually on point with what we do with Terra from Beyond on the pedestals.
Right.
I'm always right there, and then I throw up my shield
thing. Yeah.
So I don't get hit as hard when they hit you, right? And then I get healed, but for some reason, my character froze for a split second.
Oh God.
And I couldn't get my shield up, and so when I got hit, I got slammed.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun though, ultimately, and we had at least 8 of us streaming.
Yeah.
So it was like almost
ridiculous.
Half the group was streaming. We had a big group stream. You can still catch that on Twitch. It was fun. If I remember, I'll put it in the show notes. But oops, I have my camera on the wrong side. But anyway,
but it was great because actually I was able to get a set piece. I got gloves and the MX-15 gloves.
Oh, congratulations.
Or the MK-15 gloves. And I'd been sitting on MK-15 bracers for the longest time.
Yeah.
I just hadn't ever traded them in. And then
So you went and got both pieces.
Yes.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm just going right into what I did in game. Because what I did is I spent a lot of time upgrading my armor because what I had done months ago before the last patch was I had put augments and everything in a set of
Legacy gear.
Yep. With 228s. Mostly 228s, some 226s. And so with these the new MK-15s and the MK-3s that you can craft,
right,
they're all 230s. And so what I did is I started taking my augments out of the ones that I got the MK-15s for, and I put those in, and then I did a whole bunch of heroics, so I was getting CXP and those things, and they were dropping the schematics for the MK3s.
Oh, nice, dude.
And so I made those, and so now I've got 6 out of the 8, or 6 out of 7 or something.
6 or 7 on the set piece, probably.
Yeah, on the set pieces. And
nice.
The MK3 and the MK15 fill out the same set piece.
Yeah. So all the set pieces work towards the same set bonus, but it just depends on the level of the stats on them.
Right. Yeah. So I've got it turns out I've got 2 MK15s and now 4 MK3s, nice. And then one thing I still haven't changed out.
You know what's funny is the one thing that I don't have. I have 6 of 7, and I've had it for a long time, but I just don't have. I think it's either bracers or boots. It's like one thing that it never drops. And I have close to 240s on most things, but I'm just bragging. Continue.
240s.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck here down here in poverty at 230s.
Well, I mean, one of us plays, one of us doesn't.
What a bitch.
Anyway, dude, what else did you do, man?
That was pretty much it. But I'm up to I think 61. I'm actually jumping up there,
Nice,
and yeah, so it's going good. I had some fun. I was just mostly running heroics.
Nice. Yeah, well, sadly I did miss WOG this last week. I wasn't feeling very well. I've been working my second job a lot, and I still was recovering, and I just couldn't quite make it last week. So I skipped last week. I'm hoping to make Friday. I've got a golf tournament, some events happening earlier that night,
Right.
and my parents are coming that night, so I might be able to squeeze it in the middle there, but I might be pushing it, but we'll see. And then next week, and the week after that, we have people coming into town for our gaming night.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where Friday nights are working, but because I'm working so much and because things are happening, I don't want to move nights because that's really the only night I can do it. But I miss my woggers, my people, and I know I've been saying I'm trying not to say wog, but because I know it's it is what it is. But what's an ops group? I don't want to miss my people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's and when we did the Houston thing, I had to come over here and play because my Wi-Fi is actually getting worse.
I don't even know how that's possible.
It's so intermittent; it's not even funny.
That sucks,
and,
dude.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been doing a lot of heroics. I'm at tier 3 now because of all that CXP.
Nice.
Awesome. So I've been basically every time I open a bunch of packs after after a raid night, I usually will get a couple set pieces to replace the ones I have as far as stats. So it's kind of nice. So I've been playing with that.
I did forget to mention that.
Yeah.
I actually put in 2 tickets for bugs, and they're both frustrating. One I talked about last week is that every time I go in the Manon Stronghold, it redoes the cinematic, very similar to what Yavin did
that's
when
been
that first,
ongoing. Yeah,
exactly. So I put in a ticket for that.
sure.
And I think that's the one that they said that they haven't fixed, and it's not like important for them right now. But the other one is
deal with it.
every single time I log in, my sniper has to respec its combat proficiency.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that.
So I put in a ticket for that, and they said that's going to be coming up in the next patch.
Yeah, and that's a good enough segue, I think, into news. That is literally the first thing I have in the dev tracker this week. Is utilities resetting every time I log in, and for what I do understand is that it is almost exclusive to, I think, snipers and gunslingers. Like
I'm a sniper's my main. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and I haven't logged into I might actually just log into my sniper and my gunslinger just to see if it happens to me too. But it has not happened on my assassin or any other tunes I've logged into. But that's it seems to be the thing. And yeah, I think they're going to have that fix in 5.5. I think that's on the slate. But the issue is, which we'll get to a little bit later, is 5.5 has been pushed back just a titch. It looks like it's going to be like the 10th of October. So,
yeah, so it's a whole month of me having to respec every single time. Or reset my utilities, yeah.
I mean, are you gonna cry about it or? No, God. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, all right. Dial it back. All right, so Bastion server was having some issues. I remember the Bastion. Remember we used to be on the Bastion? That's the only reason I put it in here.
One of the many servers that we've been on.
Yeah, the only reason I put that in here is they were having some issues. I think the main issue for the Bastion was that it was just like plain unavailable for people. It didn't take them long to get it back, but that's been happening. There was some other login issues from other servers and stuff, so there's been some other bugs happening. And one of the things I thought was kind of funny that I was having this week was those CAPTCHA things.
Yes.
I guess there was a bug that was preventing new players from signing up to the game.
Really?
And it had to do with CAPTCHA. They figured that out pretty quick because again, if you want people to sign up for your game and they can't deal with it because of something like that, that's going to dissuade people real quick. So they fixed that pretty quickly too. And there is the conquest schedule has been updated as well.
Nice.
So you can check that out. And let's get to our discussion topic, dude. The main thing is this CXP deal. And so because of all the downtime of the server in the last update and the issues that came with that, people were saying along the lines of, hey, why not give us keep the CXP bug going? Bring back double CXP and XP sooner. And so I'm just going to kind of read through what Keith said. And I'm interested to see your response because I don't think you've seen this. So he says, recently we've had more maintenances than normal. This was compounded by our update issues last Thursday, which led to over 10 hours of maintenance. Thursday's issue, along with the extra downtime, have impacted all of our playtime, and especially are bothersome when you consider how much XP and CXP you lost from the double XP CXP event was running along with the over-the-top CXP for daily areas. So we talked about last week, there's that major boost to CXP.
Right.
That combined with the double CXP was just a really quick way for people, especially if they were worried about alts, to jump in their alts and just power through CXP levels. You know what I mean? So Keith goes on, he says, so to make sure your characters can take advantage from both, here's what we're going to do. First thing, since the double CXP/CXP event ended on Tuesday, and again, this was on the 7th, we're recording on the 13th here, we've decided to bring it back earlier than planned. That is, we had it scheduled to make it available in December around the holidays, but it'll return with the launch of 5.5.
So October. Okay.
Yeah, and in a later post, it looks like that's, instead of the end of this month, it's going to be October 10th, I think, or somewhere around there.
Well, it's perfect for us because it's right near our fall break.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to power through some levels, that's for sure. And so that will give another full week to benefit from the event.
Very nice.
Any comments on that?
Well, I didn't get to take advantage of any of the double.
Oh, that's right. You weren't really
CXP.
playing. Right.
Well, I just didn't get a chance to get on.
Right.
And so the CXP I did do this last week was after the double. So
after that, yeah.
You kept saying, "Oh, you're getting 3,000," and no, I was getting
I was getting a lot more than that
or something like that.
Yeah. Come on in. Hello. What's happening? Hi, Zoe. My children are coming in.
You want to say hi to the audience?
You don't have to. It's fine. Okay. Just make sure you shut the door if you're leaving. Not even 100% sure what you're doing, but. Okay, bye. Let me guess. Yep, she closed that in the door. Okay, now you're coming in. Anybody else coming in before we continue here?
No.
Hi, Ro.
No.
Yep. Just typical. Goodbye, good night. All right, so the next thing they're going to do is the daily area bug is going to stick around for a few weeks, which I think is nice. They're not going out of their way to fix it.
Okay, what's a list of the daily areas that are? I know it's Oricon.
Well, you're gonna have to. I'll have to find the other post.
Okay,
it's Section X, Black Hole, Oricon. It was Iocath, and I think they fixed that one.
CZ198.
CZ198 are the ones that I can remember offhand.
So it's basically all the original.
The
dailies.
old ones, yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of, and I think that's what he says. He says, as Eric mentioned in another post, our plan was to fix it next week in another patch, but we've decided to hold off on any change until game update 5.5.
So that'll give us another month.
Yeah. I'm personally leveraging this as a means of playing my other tunes and raising their command rank to 300. Honestly, it's been a lot of fun seeing so many players taking advantage too. So they're totally okay with it. So it's not an exploit, so do it if you want.
Awesome.
And it's very clear everyone is really enjoying higher rewards on the daily missions. As a result, we're exploring some options such as increasing CXP values above their base rewards, making rotating daily objectives worth high bonuses, and more. We'll let you know where we land on these discussions, but one thing is for certain, higher CXP values are very motivational. Again, I want to thank you all for your patience the last few weeks. So what's interesting about this is there is another follow-up post, but what do you think about some of these preliminary ideas that they have as far as increasing the bonuses and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that, and I like how that they're understanding that because of things that they did that they had no control over that caused people to not be able to get the bonuses.
Right.
They're taking that into account. So I'm good with this, and I'm on board. Plus, I'm a pretty easygoing player. So
same here. But also, what I think is important is they're acknowledging that if you give people a incentive like that, they're going to do that content.
Yes.
Right. So keep that in mind when I read this next thing. So there was somebody who posted on the forums, and I think they were a little salty, and that's okay. But Keith responds really nicely. So the the person posted says, "See your whole post, and this is what stood out to me the most of all. I accept that the team may well be looking at CXP rewards, Keith, and welcome that. However, with that said, if you think that the CXP gain for dailies was over the top, then perhaps I think the team is missing the whole point here. You really should start asking yourselves why players flock to do dailies for CXP. Perhaps I could suggest an answer to that, but I prefer you came to the natural conclusion among yourselves. I would also like to thank the developers for introducing this bug. They should receive a bonus for doing so. And if they would be so kind to introduce this bug to every other area of the game that rewards CXP, I highly doubt you will receive any complaints from the community." Now, obviously, there's a little bit of sass happening there.
A little bit.
But what I like is Keith's response. He says, "You're actually reading way too much into that part of my post, as we all agree with the sentiment everyone has communicated. Overall, we concur with the comments about CXP rates, incentives, and having areas of the game with high CXP values is very motivational. We also fully understand the positive impact it has had for everyone. If we know daily areas are the only place to get great CXP, then the rest of the content in the game gets ignored and eventually everyone will burn out. Hence, we need to make sure you can benefit from all areas of the game. We're reviewing when we can get that effort done." So he kind of is basically saying, like, you know, we want people to not feel like they have to do dailies in order to get the most CXP. When all the CXP stuff got introduced, one of the more beneficial ways to get CXP was through ranked PvP. And Mox was one of those people in our guild, of course, who took advantage of that and leveled very quickly. But not all of us want to grind ranked PvP. So it's less about the fact that the incentives there. It's more about let's bring everything up so everybody can choose to play the game they want to play and still feel like they're getting the rewards. So they're looking into that, and I hope they come up with something cool.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like a thing. It's like if you raise everything up the same, then there's no benefit to anything because it just means, you know what I mean? What I would like to see is...
But what you're saying, though, I get that, but at the same time, if they're higher than they are now, then people won't feel like they have to do that one thing.
No, I understand.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is what I would personally like in the way to solve this would be imagine, and I don't know if there is a way to run an algorithm for this, whatever, but depending on gameplay as it goes, is those values will change, like, say, weekly or monthly.
Sure.
That if you're finding out that a whole bunch of people are playing... Okay, great way to say it.
Okay.
When we went to Comic-Con, so those of you who've been to Comic-Con and been to San Diego, the Tipsy Crow. Right? They've got that...
I love that place.
They've got that, the market board where the more that a drink
gets... It looks like kind of like a stock market board.
Right. The more a drink gets ordered, the more expensive it is, and everything else goes down.
Right.
Okay, so here, I want the inverse.
I thought it was the opposite. If more people order it, it goes lower. I don't remember.
No,
it's the other way around.
Right.
Okay.
So basically what I want is... If everybody's playing dailies, the value of dailies go down while value of PvP goes up.
Oh,
and if people switch to PvP, PvP will go down, operations go up. And so basically you'll get, and it's not necessarily a rotation, it'll be
a fluctuation.
A fluctuation based on gameplay.
Interesting. The Tipsy Crow initiative, maybe.
Exactly.
I kind of like that, man. I mean, it'd be kind of cool, like, if everybody's grinding dailies, okay, so then that starts to go down, but then you would almost have to have, it'd actually be kind of a fun little mini game almost, because you'd have, and that was the fun part about that bar, is it's like you look at the board, and when you're getting ready to order another drink, you're like, okay, well, nobody's ordered a screwdriver in 4 hours, so that's $2. I'm going to order a screwdriver.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So think about things that get, I mean, like, there's the big things that everyone mentions, like ops, PvP, and and heroics and dailies and stuff like that, but things that get completely ignored for the most part, like GSF, all of a sudden that's through the roof,
right,
and so it gets people to go play or space missions, or
well, and they could reflect that. I like where we're going here. They could reflect that in the commands interface. So you go to the command interface,
and there's just like a little stock market ticker.
Right, sure. And not only that, it could just, like they do now, they highlight what's the bonus is.
Right.
But the bonus, maybe they could grade the bonus as like, bronze, silver, and gold. So they have
Right.
like 3 things that are kind of rotating depending on what people are playing. I think that'd be badass. Dude.
Yeah.
It would keep people rotating from things. So like our
Exactly.
group could be like, all right, we're gonna do flashpoints because it's a bonus, but everybody's doing flashpoints now. Nobody's done GSF for a while. Let's do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be. I like where you're thinking.
Thank you.
Too bad Bioware's not listening.
I know, right?
I think it'd be kind of fun. And again, and I hope it would be if they did something like that. God, I like that idea, dude. Because I'm enjoying. I think that bar. I had more fun in that bar over the last few years than I've had anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
It's almost like an interactive
no,
bar.
it's interesting. Coming from guys named The Usual,
Yeah,
it got us drinking things we didn't normally drink.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we were playing shuffleboard last year.
Exactly.
And hanging out with people, and we're getting to know people, and then we look up at the board. Okay, let's buy a round of this because it's $3 instead of $8. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so that's I like where you're thinking. Maybe it's because we haven't eaten and we're drinking, but
I know,
think,
right?
I think it's a good idea. It'd be kind of fun to have a rotating system, sort of. Then there's not a flavor of the update. So we have to, up until 5.5 now, we all know we can do these daily missions. We're going to get burnout on it. And then if they decide to up everything, then it's like, okay, then it's just the norm, right? But it'd be kind of nice to have a little fluctuation, kind of almost like the, what I think the dark and light side thing was supposed to be. It was supposed to incentivize you to do certain things in game, and it never really happened. But I don't know. I'm in. Too bad nobody in the chat room is contributing to this because I think we came up with a cool idea.
Yeah, well, too bad there's nobody in the chat room.
Well, we don't say that. I'm gonna cut that. But just kidding, dude. It's a Wednesday. We usually record on a Thursday, and we never mentioned why we're recording on a Wednesday. I think we did a couple weeks ago, but I have to work Thursday nights going forward for a couple weeks. So
Right.
we'll be doing Wednesdays. All right, last thing in SWTOR. Roadmap. People wanna know what the roadmap's about.
Okay, I'm sorry. Every time you say roadmap, it reminds me of Family Guy whenever Peter decides to kick something and then he looks at the camera and goes, Roadhouse. Which is funny because I just watched Roadhouse again a couple weeks ago.
Did you really?
I
oh
did.
My God, dude. That's funny. All right, so somebody obviously posted, acknowledging obviously there was weather in Texas.
Yes.
And then saying, so what about these things? So he said, what about the roadmap? What about Game Update 5.5? There's going to be class balancing. And what about returning companions? Obviously, everybody has to put in the returning companions thing. So Eric came up and he said, these are the 4 things. He said, the roadmap is still in progress. We've been shuffling some things around with respect to 5.5 and 5.6, and they need to be settled before we can know exactly what's coming and when. Number 2, it's the plan to put out Game Update 5.5 in late September, but they made a decision to move it to early October, which, it's the 10th. They're saying the 10th, and it's going to allow them to focus more on quality stuff so they don't have an issue like last time. Class balance is also the plan for 5.5, and returning companions is something people are interested in. Obviously, they're acknowledging that. And, of course, they'll update us when they know. So,
Mako.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of Mako enthusiasts out there, I got to say.
Considering, and they've known since the very beginning of the game how popular she is.
Yep.
They've got to be planning something very long term.
I hope so.
There's a story of her majorly involved.
Yeah, I hope so, too.
And considering that everything is kind of centered around Scorpio with the main storyline for the last couple of big patches, that
right.
It would just make complete sense. Can you imagine Scorpio is like the ultimate AI going up against the best slicer in the galaxy?
Yeah, that'd be sick. Well, we're out of here, dude.
Yeah, let's go on to Star Wars.
Let's get to the fun. I don't even know where my bumper is. Here we go.
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
So I'm going to say Wednesday's a bad night.
I know, right?
Everybody, like a bunch of our friends retweeted, but nobody's in there. And Wednesday's busy. Busy night. All right, dude. Let's get to Star Wars. Here we go. You put the top news.
I
in
did.
Here.
So we got just one little bit of news. This is actually convention news, but it's Star Wars specific. So, as we know, a lot of people from the Star Wars universe goes to conventions, right? And of course, we lost Carrie Fisher this year. Harrison Ford is taking a major step back now that his character's dead.
Right.
Was it Jeremy Bullock decided to stop touring a year and a half ago?
He was the pilot, right?
No, he was Boba Fett.
Oh, Boba Fett. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But today, David Prowse, well, not today, a couple days ago, David Prowse announced that he's retiring from the convention circuit.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, he's up there. I think he's in his 80s.
Yeah, he's got to be at least 80, right? I mean, yeah. So, I mean, and that makes sense. A lot of these guys are going to start retiring before they, but yeah, I mean, I think it's only a matter of time. So I would have loved to have seen, some of these guys in at a convention.
Yeah, well, and it's funny. Of course, Peter Mayhew is going to have to stop going to conventions soon either. I mean, he can't get out of a wheelchair most of the time. But it's funny, David Prowse and Jeremy Bullock, these are people who never took off their helmets anyways.
Right, yeah.
So.
Yeah, nobody could probably pick David Prowse out of a lineup, probably,
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's it. Getting into the canon stuff, we talked, over the last month or so about the Journey to the Last Jedi books stuff coming out, written word stuff coming out. And last week, Captain Phasma comic book came out.
Yeah, Captain Phasma #1.
Yeah, and we got a couple of big things out of it.
Yeah.
First of all, we got the first canon appearance of...
Oh, yeah, BB-9E. The other BB unit.
Yeah,
the evil one.
The First Order.
Yeah.
One who's on Snoke's ship.
Right. That's going to be cool, man.
Yeah, and one thing I do love is because about the comics is you kind of get stuff from different angles, right, from other viewpoints. And it turns out that although Phasma was not shown very much in The Force Awakens,
right,
it turns out that she was a witness in the woods to the Kylo and Rey battle at the end.
Oh, really?
So she saw it.
Yeah.
And so I really want to read the comic now to find out what that was all about.
Well, and it'd be interesting to see the battle from her perspective. Was she going to take a shot at some point? Was she going to intervene? Or was she afraid? It'd be interesting to see where she stood. Was her helmet off?
Yes.
That would be interesting, too.
Yeah. So I really want to read that comic soon.
Yeah, and I'd like to actually... well, I mean, obviously we'll find out in December, but it'd be nice to see Phasma without the helmet acting. I mean, we all know her as Brienne of Tarth, obviously, from Game of Thrones. It'd be really cool to see her with the helmet off and interacting
exactly
in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, because she's a good actress. So
she is. And, she played that role so well. Brienne of Tarth.
Oh,
and after reading the book, she was one of those characters that had so much depth and so much going on and so much loyalty and so many conflicts, And I think that actress...
And you can always see the conflict on her face whenever she's trying to be honorable and stuff.
Yeah, and she pulled that off so well. So yes. I would love to see that in Star Wars. So cool. All right, man. So let's get to the big news, huh?
Yeah, big news is all about Episode 9.
Should we? Let's bury the lead just a titch and go back to the official statement.
On Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow. So Colin Trevorrow was fired. Obviously, we talked about this on our last show. He was fired from. Did we talk about it? We did.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about it. Colin Trevorrow fired from Episode 9. The official statement, and I'm not going to read. We kind of did a little bit of the rumor mill a little bit last time, but the official line is this. Lucasfilm and Colin Trevorrow have mutually chosen to part ways on Star Wars Episode 9. Colin has been a wonderful collaborator throughout the development process, but we have all come to the conclusion that our visions for the project differ. We wish Colin the best, and we'll be sharing more information about the film soon.
That could have almost been word for word when they got rid of Lord and Miller.
And isn't that the same thing? Yes. Right?
I think it's that they want security.
And there was another article I didn't put in here that was something along the lines of no director is bigger than the franchise.
Exactly, which is one reason. I think when we were talking about it last week, I mentioned that's one reason I like Marvel's game plan.
Yeah.
Is that it's the same way. They can bring in marquee directors like Kenneth Branagh and Joss Whedon, but no director is bigger than the overall scope of the story.
It's all this is building the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All this is building this new Star Wars universe under the Disney banner, and And there's other articles out there. He became more difficult to work with, stuff like that. He was a little, full of himself. Whatever you want to buy or not buy. I mean, I was looking at stories from Hollywood Reporter and some other random stuff. But all that aside, you're right. This is almost exactly the same line they put out, because they actually have a quote in this article, Phil, about Lord and Miller. That's very similar. It's like, look, we want you to do this. This is the story we're going.
Yeah, we want somebody who has vision, but we want your artistic vision, not your we want your stylized vision, not your artistic vision.
Well, and I don't know. There was another one I almost put in here too, and I didn't, but I'm going to reference it because I did read it. It had to do with who's the guy directing?
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson having creative freedom. And it's not that they don't want them to be creative. It's that
be creative in their sandbox.
In the world that they've said, okay, we want these things to happen. This is the vision that we have. Now do what you want in there.
Yes.
And if you're not that director, they're going to can you.
Yeah, they are.
And the statistic is actually a little startling though. This is the third, right, out of 4 films that they got rid of, because what's his name was supposed to do the Boba Fett movie, and they got rid of him too.
Yeah. Josh
Trank. So a lot of people are looking at this like, well, in a negative light, but I'm looking at it a little more in that, well, let's make sure we're fulfilling the vision that we've promised the fans. We have episode 7. We've done Rogue One. We've got Han Solo coming. We've got episode 7, episode 8. Let's make sure that we are continuing along the line that, and they have a vision, right?
Yeah, you know what? Okay, and this is coming from somebody who used to work for Disney and is well versed in Hollywood and entertainment history. Disney is very similar to what the old studio system kind of was, right? Because back then you had a stable of stars and stuff that you had under contract, and that's not what Disney does. But they had overall visions for the studios,
right? And
they would hire in people to come in and do those visions, right? It wasn't until later that you started getting people like Billy Wilder, who broke out of the system, later on with Scorsese and stuff, who were such auteurs, and Kubrick, that they kind of did that sort of thing, right?
Right.
But what Disney does is Disney is all about the product.
Yeah.
The ultimate end result is the product, because that is what the consumers honestly don't care about directors. They don't care about writers. They don't care about actors, actresses, or anything. They care about the product.
What are they going to see on the screen, ultimately?
Exactly. Now,
your mic's on, right?
Yeah.
You're just kind of low. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
So it's, it's one of the main reasons why they had to get the big 3 back.
Right.
It's not necessarily that the actors themselves are that important. It's the characters that they fulfill.
Could you imagine? And this is a weird side note, and I'm glad you said that. If they had started this new deal, if they had come back with episode 7 and they didn't have the big 3, I could see them mentioning it offhandedly. But if they didn't have them,
no, it would not.
It wouldn't go well. It would, and I think that's why they. And especially JJ with his story, they had to make sure that they had the big 3 intertwined in at least this trilogy.
No matter how good, Ridley, Boyega, and
they're great,
and Isaac were.
Isaacs, yeah.
They weren't. I mean, you would watch further movies because of them,
right?
But you wouldn't have gone to see the first movie without the big 3.
Yeah, and
we would have, but
we would have gone. But we would have been thinking well, they're talking about Han Solo, but I don't see Han Solo.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And now that they've promised that, I know we're going to get a conclusion to, obviously, we're getting a conclusion to Carrie Fisher. We're going to get a conclusion, probably not in this movie, but definitely in episode 9 for Luke.
Yes.
And then going forward, we're going to have our new big 3.
Yes.
And all these other characters that they've created, Phasma and Ren and all these other guys. Mm-hmm. Who knows how long Ren's going to last, but again, there's more stories to be told there, and they don't need the big 3, but they needed them to start rekindle this franchise, right?
Right. The way that we feel about, Luke, Leia, Han, Darth Vader, Boba Fett, and Yoda are how your kids are going to think about Rey and Finn and Poe.
But that's the point.
And Yeah.
That's the point. You want them to feel this way about these characters so that you can build from there, right?
Right.
So boy, did we bury the lead. So they obviously had to come up with a new director,
Yes.
and I'll let you announce it, sir.
Well, it seems like they offered it first to Ryan Johnson.
And he was from what I saw, he was a front runner for it. And
Yeah. Well, there was an art, and actually I didn't put it in the show notes, but there's an article that came out today that he was offered it.
Oh,
they actually offered it to
interesting.
him.
Okay.
And then he was like, he didn't do a denial thing. He basically just said, I want to be a spectator of this next one.
Yeah, I did. I saw something like that too.
So they brought back JJ. JJ Abrams is coming back to do 9.
Oh man, boy, it's interesting when they make an announcement like this. I'll tell you, this is a funny little side note. In our little Twitter group, our Twitter group that is around the our Pucked Cantina.
Right.
I put just this article. The moment it hit, I got the push notifications because I get the notifications from Star Wars on Twitter.
Right.
I just copied the tweet, slapped it in the chat. Then I went to work. A few hours went by. My phone always buzzed in my pocket for various reasons, and I ignored it. At some point, a couple hours later, I looked, and then I was like, oh, I missed a few messages. They were back and forth. And, of course, there was some for, some against JJ. And then I went back to work for a lot longer.
Right.
And I'd say 3 hours later, I looked, and I had 85 missed messages from the group. I don't know what happened. I even took a screen cap of the 85 messages and said, guys, what's happening? But long and the short of it is there's a little more divide here than I thought there'd be. But let's. How do you feel about it before we get into why people would be upset?
I'm great with it. I mean, I loved Force Awakens. I like JJ as a director. I think there was a very good point that Nerdist made, because, of course, this is all over Nerdist News yesterday. And Jessica Chobot brought up a great point that JJ is great at building universes and horrible at finishing them.
Okay.
Which is why Alias and Felicity and Lost all ended poorly.
Right.
So as long as, I mean, this is going to wrap up a story.
A trilogy.
Of course. But it's not going to wrap up a whole thing.
Right.
And the Nerdist hypothesized that, he was great with Force Awakens because he could say, here's Snoke and here's
all these things. Now play with it.
Yeah, and I don't need to know where they're going to go.
Right.
Now he's got to know where they go.
Well, or close up some things and leave some things open, too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Knowing the fact that they're going to make an episode 10, 11, 12. There's going to be another trilogy. They haven't announced it, but you have to imagine there's going to be.
Right.
That said, Lost thing was interesting. I think that's a good point.
And actually, to be perfectly honest, I enjoyed the Lost ending.
So did I. I liked Lost. I like all his stuff, and I like him as a director. And honestly, to be honest, just to say this, I like him as a person.
Yes.
I think that he approaches his projects with a certain level of, I don't know if reverence is the right word, but
respect.
Respect is the right word. And especially when it comes to Star Wars, all of the stuff leading up to The Force Awakens, he handled the hype. He handled all
that
of
is one thing he can handle stress and hype better than almost anybody in Hollywood.
And he did it. When you saw him interviewed, you could tell, like, look, this would rattle most people. And he's like, you know what? This is where I'm at. And this is what's going on.
Yep.
And I'm not going to tell you anything.
Exactly.
So I'm on board only in that. And I guess there's a lot more people that didn't like The Force Awakens than I thought. But I personally, that is my second and or third, depending on the day, favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it's great.
I love the film. And yeah, there's the criticism that it's a mirror of, A New Hope. And yeah, it is. But it's a mirror in that the same way, I guess I should say, it's not really, episode 1 doesn't count, but it's an origin story for a Force-sensitive character.
Yes.
And the fact that it does mirror so closely the hero's journey and Luke's journey with a female protagonist in a new era with new friends and new enemies, I think that's important. I don't care really how closely it was to it. And yeah, I think part of that film was an homage to episode 4 because, again, he approaches things with reverence and respect. And I don't think of it as a ripoff of he just rehashed episode 4 because clearly he did not.
Hell, I mean, A New Hope was a rehash of the Lost Fortress. So
Yeah.
like, come on.
I mean, we all take things from other things, but at the same time, oh, good, grab them. But at the same time, it's important to understand that I really enjoy The Force Awakens, and I think JJ's gonna do episode 9 well. I cannot wait to see what happens in episode 8. I can't wait. Only in that I know it's gonna be dark, and I know it's gonna be different, and then to see what JJ does after that is gonna be a trip.
Yeah, well, I really like Rian Johnson. I think I was one of the few people that liked Looper better than most.
I like Looper. Looper was great. We've never actually talked about Looper. I only saw it the one time in the theater.
Right, and I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt has become a much better actor.
Yeah,
Now
I like that
he's
kid.
grown up. I mean, actually, I've got a little bit of news about him.
He's probably my age, as I say, kid, but
but I mean, he was in The Dark Knight. He was Robin in Dark Knight Rises. He was great. He brilliant in Inception.
Yeah, totally.
Fantastic, right? So anyways, really quick, going back to JJ, he was brought in to direct and write it.
Yeah.
But they got him a co-writer.
Who's the co-writer?
They brought in Chris Terrio, who did that? Justice League.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. This is one of the funny things.
And he's a co-writer, not a...
Yeah, he's going to be a co-writer.
Okay.
So it's funny how... Well, I mean, very much how, like... was it Kasdan was a co-writer for Force Awakens?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's funny how, Joss Whedon goes from Marvel to DC, and now we got DC going to Star Wars, and everyone's kind of going. And we had Patty Jenkins go from Marvel to DC.
I'm in, dude. I like that the writers, I like that the most creative people that are behind some of these stories that we are consuming right now have no qualms with going back and forth between, DC and Marvel or Disney or whatever. I mean, if we need a strong writer and that person's the right person, then get that person and let's break down those walls. It's funny because
especially these major franchises and properties, they lend a lot to the history of comics. Right. Comics were the same way. I mean,
you're right.
Alan Moore worked for multiple different people. I mean, Grant Morrison worked for multiple different people. I mean, and we lost a very famous comic person this week.
Right.
Lin Wen, we're going to talk about him a little bit later, but he worked for both Marvel and DC as well.
But I think that's right. I mean, it's like, look, I have this vision for this comic book. I need to find this artist or this writer to help me craft it. And I don't care who he works for. I want him.
We want storytellers.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're forgetting. We're in an age right now, and this is something I talk about with my students all the time. We're in an age of storytelling where it's so epic. We need to make sure we have the best people on it. And it's highly competitive, obviously, but why do we care if Joss Whedon goes over to DC?
No, we don't.
We're going to get a badass story out of it, hopefully.
Exactly.
And if we don't, we don't. But they wouldn't have hired him if we weren't.
Exactly.
So, so one other thing that comes along with this, because we could talk about this all day, obviously, but the release date has moved from May to back to December.
Yes, exactly.
So we're looking at December 20th, 2019 now for episode 9.
Right. And that's actually going to change another release date under the Disney banner, and we'll get to that later in Disney. And just keep that in mind that because something moved from this date to that date,
right,
that means something's got to move off of that date because that's a big date.
That makes sense.
And fill that hole. So we'll talk about that later. So we got a little bit of Last Jedi news. We're done with episode 9. We got a little bit of Last Jedi. You did the first one here. What do you have to say?
So this is just, I just wanted to throw this out there. There's a really cool cover.
This is for Empire Magazine.
Yeah, and this is Empire Magazine.
Yeah, it's a British entertainment magazine.
And it's just such a cool cover for, and there's really no one in the chat room right now that I think needs to see this, but I have a link in the show notes, but check this out.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's a really nice look of Luke and Rey back to back. She's got the lightsaber ignited. He's looking off in the distance. And the tagline's kind of cool. There is another, and it says The Last Jedi. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And I haven't dived into any stories that go along with that cover yet, but maybe we could talk about that next week as that stuff comes to light.
Yeah,
So,
possibly.
cool.
And talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt, as we found out with Force Awakens, a lot of people did voice cameos or behind or in costume cameos. Like Daniel Craig is a stormtrooper and Kevin Smith is the voice of a stormtrooper and stuff like that.
And there was a female stormtrooper too somewhere in there.
Yes. Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who worked with Rian Johnson on Looper, he was brought in and he does the voice of an alien.
No way. Oh,
And
that's cool.
he has a line or two, and Rian Johnson just come out and said, "See if you can pick out Joe's voice and
Oh, that'd be great.
everything." So it's not it's not him on screen; it's the voice of an
It's the
alien.
voice. That's cool, man. I like that directors do stuff like that. JJ put Homeboy in the movie too.
Yeah.
And as an X-wing pilot and stuff. And I like that they bring their friends in and do that kind of stuff. I think that's cool. Rian Johnson, I have this one in here also. And there's just one line I wanted to pick out of this, but he compares Snoke to the Emperor. And I mean, this is obvious, but at the same time, there was a line that he said that I thought was kind of cool. He said, and I guess this was from Empire, so this is part of it. He says, we got the whole story of Palpatine's rise to power in the prequels, but in the original films, he's exactly what he needs to be. He's just the Emperor. Director Rian Johnson tells Empire, he's a dark force, the scary thing behind the thing. That was entirely how I approached Snoke. I wasn't interested in explaining where he came from or telling his story, except where it serves this story.
Yeah, you think about that with the Emperor in Empire and Jedi.
Yeah.
You get nothing about him. You get a name and a malevolence,
and that's it.
All you get.
And I think what's going to bum people out with that particular sentiment is that, well, we're not going to get. It's not going to be Mace Windu. It's not going to be Ezra. It's not going to be Kane. It's not going to be anybody.
Well, you got
yet.
to remember, this is Rian Johnson doing this. This is
Right.
episode 8, so it might not get solved in episode 8, but JJ might tie it up.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying, we're not going to get the history behind Snoke in episode 8.
Exactly.
Which is fine with me. I do like the speculation a bit, but
I totally see that in the journey to whatever the title of episode 9 is.
Sure.
We're going to get a Snoke book.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
I think that's what's going to happen next year. So, 2 years from now.
Nice prediction.
All right. So we only got one. It's funny. We still get a little tidbits of older movies. So we got one little piece of news
I didn't
from
see this.
The Force Awakens, and it came to light this week that Billie Lourd, who is Carrie Fisher's daughter, and she had a bit part in Force Awakens. She had originally auditioned for Rey.
No crap. Wow.
Of course, Daisy Ridley knocked her audition.
Yeah, we've seen that audition. That auditions are ridiculous.
Exactly, but it's kind of cool that you see things like this.
Yeah, no, and I like that Billie Lourd went for it, considering her mom's role in the franchise. I think that would have been there would have been something pretty cool about seeing her on. Imagine her as Rey, knowing that she's Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Yeah.
Do you think one of the reasons maybe she didn't get the job was because
they didn't want people to tie that?
They didn't want to be like, well, she's obviously her, like, differentiating between that.
It would have been harder.
It would have been difficult, but
exactly.
I'd be interested to see how the audition went. I mean, she's a good actress from what I understand.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And she looks the part. She could have done it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to Rebels.
Yeah, we got a couple little tidbits of TV news. Season 4, and this is really interesting, and I think this is just the way that people watch TV now.
Yeah.
Is I never actually watched Rebels when it was airing. So you did with your girls. So it was always airing on Fridays or Saturdays?
Yeah, I think it moved dates once too, but yeah.
But it was like,
Fridays.
Right, in early evening, right? Like 7 or 8 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, it turns out it's going to air multiple times on premiere date, like every 3 hours. And the first airing is going to be at 12:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Interesting.
On I can't remember what the date is, but
I'll pull it up while you do.
But just that's every week. It's gonna air at 12:30 a.m. Eastern time. So that means we're gonna get a 10:30 p.m. Pacific airing. But it's gonna be multiple times.
Interesting.
So I kind of like that.
Oh, it's gonna be on Mondays. Multiple airings of the show, Disney XD throughout the day. Yeah, a publicist for Lucasfilm revealed that while there'll be multiple airings of the show on Disney XD throughout the day, the premieres will take place on Mondays at 12:30 a.m. Eastern, beginning October 16th. Very
Which
interesting.
means 10:30 p.m. Sunday Pacific.
Interesting. Previously, new episodes of the series would air Saturdays. It was Saturday on Disney XD, which is no longer the case. And the premieres will still air at the expected 9 p.m. Eastern time slot. That's interesting. But for those of you that can't wait to get their latest on the goes, you can see new episodes early that day. That's cool. Wow.
Yeah,
and the first couple episodes have been named too.
Yeah, they named the first 6, I think.
Yeah, the first 2. Well, there's a 2-parter: Heroes of Mandalore Part 1 and 2.
Yeah, you kind of saw that one coming.
Yeah, and The Name of the Rebellion Part 1 and 2 is the next 2. So there's 2-parters back to back.
Cool.
That's cool.
All right, so what do we got about Starkiller?
Well, this is interesting. So Starkiller is actually, well, okay. Starkiller is in the Force Unleashed video games.
Yes.
Okay, he's the
character,
guy,
not Starkiller base.
the character.
Right.
He's the one you see pulling the Star Destroyer out of the sky in that long ago trailer for the video game.
Yeah, he's Vader's unknown apprentice.
Exactly, which is pretty darn cool. And he says, so I'm gonna kind of go through this here. He says, the person who did the voice actor in the game, his name is actor Sam Witwer, has portrayed a few iconic characters in the Star Wars universe, but he is the first major break in the galaxy for Starkiller in the game, and it's non-canonical, obviously. And he says he went to Twitter, and he said, and you're gonna like this. He set the internet ablaze when he revealed the news on a Twitch stream while playing the game alongside his fellow actors Dave Collins. He said, so Dave Filoni obviously did share with me, by the way, he considered making Starkiller an Inquisitor in Star Wars Rebels, which would have been cool. It didn't quite fit the story that they were telling, but he did think about it because he thought it would be really interesting. And he says, and then of course he was asked if he's going to appear in Rebels, but obviously I have no idea, he says, and they're closing on the 4th season, and obviously he says Starkiller isn't in Rebels Season 4, so it comes down to what story they need to tell. It would have been kind of cool to see him as an Inquisitor, though, considering how it might be, it kind of might have been, I'm thinking it wouldn't have fit the story because of how powerful he was in the game too.
Right. Well, I don't think it would have made sense because he was somebody that Vader was hiding.
Right.
As his
so
apprentice.
Why would he? Yeah.
So there's no way that the Emperor would have made him an Inquisitor.
An Inquisitor, exactly. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting.
All right. So Forces of Destiny, which they already aired the first 8 episodes, which were all about the women of Star Wars. The next 8 are going to air in October, and they're going to center around Finn and Han and a couple other characters. Nice. They announced that the next 8 are going to air in 2018.
Cool.
So we're already got a 3rd season that's in the works.
That's pretty cool, man. I still need to watch all those. They're only like 2 minutes each, but I got to find them all in a clump that I can watch them.
They're on Plex.
All right. I know. Thanks, buddy.
I hate you.
You're all right. And the last thing here?
Yeah, so there was no fanfare to this, no announcement, no nothing. But with Battlefront 2 coming out, Disney has made the entire DLC season pass for the first Battlefront movie free. So if you go to their website and download it for the video game, for Xbox, PS4 or PC Origin, it's completely free.
That's awesome
to play to get the game. Of course, if you have Xbox, you have to pay for Xbox Live.
Sure,
but the game itself is free.
Nice.
So I actually might download this.
I might too,
just so I have it.
Yeah, same here. I'm with you.
Might as well download it while it's free.
Cool, man. All right, dude. So let's get to our last section, huh?
Yeah, time for some usual.
I gotta tell you though, man. I mean, as a quick side note before we get into this, because we don't have too much left. I'm really. There's a lot of people out there saying they're less excited because of JJ.
I'm more excited.
I think I'm more excited because I think it really depends on how you felt about The Force Awakens, and I didn't have any major issues. I didn't have any major issues. I love the film, so I'm excited to see what he does, and I love him as a director and as a storyteller. So,
absolutely.
I just had to say that for some reason because I just felt like people are upset, and I hate them.
I hate you.
Well, here we are.
I can't imagine any kind of future where I'm a hero.
Well, you're not.
In the future, none of you are heroes. your legend.
All right. So, last section, we have bad news, of course, to start with.
Yeah, we lost a couple of legends this week. First of all, let's mention Lin Wen. We mentioned him earlier. He passed away at the age of 69. He was a legend in the comics universe, most notably as an editor and a creator. He created Wolverine.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean,
crazy,
for
man.
the fact that Stan Lee created the X-Men, but Len Wein created Wolverine.
Wow.
Who is the the standard bearer of the X-Men.
Sure.
But not only that, he was the editor on the Watchmen.
And it's heartbreaking. You see all this stuff on social media, and and I love that social media exists now because of this. You can see people actually reacting. I mean, not videos, and so I don't watch stuff like that. But
right, and they were all over social media. I mean, Hugh
Right.
Jackman coming out and talking about it, and it's just.
But you have people whose lives were changed because these characters existed, coming out and saying how much that person's life meant to him. I think that's really important. So
Yeah, absolutely. The other one really hits close to home for me. I was really bummed when I heard this, and even though he passed away at the age of 98,
who is this?
Disney legend X Atencio. His full name was Xavier, but he always went by X, and that's how he signed his name.
Yeah.
You obviously don't know his name, but he did the music for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh no.
Haunted Mansion.
Now I'm sad.
Yeah, he worked with Disney on his last couple of rides. He worked with Mark Davis on a lot of stuff, but he was a great musician.
I was afraid to click on that article, and
Yeah,
now I know
he's-
why.
And I mean, for everybody that goes to Disneyland, you always hear "Yo ho, yo ho, Pirates Life for
Yeah.
Me" and "Grim Grinning Ghosts," and he's the guy that did the music.
Oh man.
He's fantastic. I mean, he was one of the original Disney legends. He was one of the first to go
Right.
into their pantheon.
Is he one of the heads in Haunted Mansion?
No,
I don't remember who the heads are, but anyway,
no, but he's
I
not.
had to
But
ask.
he is great.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pieces of artwork that I have is a drawing of one of the pirates on Pirates of the Caribbean, the one that's leaning on the cannon with the gun,
Right.
and it's signed by Mark Davis, who designed the ride, or not the Imagineer. He was the artist, so he designed the
Right.
view. His wife Alice Davis, who was the costumer for the ride, and X Atencio, who wrote the music.
Oh man.
And all three of them signed it, and there was only 500 of these made.
Oh my god, that's
And so
crazy.
it's one thing I have, and excuse me, now all three are gone, and I also have a
You still have it?
I do.
Wow.
When my brother and I went to Disneyland for the 35th anniversary of Haunted Mansion, this is back in 1999, I think, right around there, and one of the things you could buy was a limited edition CD of all the music from Haunted Mansion, and they only did 999 of them.
Of course they did.
Because it's 999 Happy Haunts,
Yeah.
and X Atencio signed the CD as well. So I've
Wow.
got that as well, and it's just like he's one of my favorite Disney people, and just to hear that he passed away is just heartbreaking.
I'm sorry, man. Like I said, I mean, it's interesting. Although we may never meet any of these people, it's again going back to the impact. That's something you and your brother did. It's something that you shared. It's something that's it's really important to Disney history. And I mean, like I said, I mean, as many times I've been at Disney, many times I've been on those two rides. Those are two of my very favorite rides in the park. And a lot of it has to do with the music, and that's it's a bummer. So
It is a bummer.
anyway, on a weirder note, so there's been some rumors that Futurama is coming back,
I've been hearing things in the wind.
but it's coming back in a really, really weird way. Okay,
Tell me all about it.
it's coming out tomorrow.
Okay.
But
Tomorrow
it's
being September 14th.
September 14th. Fans of Futurama will get an all-new adventure starring all of your favorite characters, but in a whole new way. USA Today revealed that the original cast are reuniting to tell a 42-minute tale in the form of a radio drama,
That's cool.
which debuts September 14th on SoundCloud and Nerdist. So the project is called Radio Rama. And And it will go a meta route with USA Today explaining that the podcast will also feature characters including Fry, Leela, and they list the actors' names, of course, and appropriately Klaxon, Nefarious Lifeform. Oh, cool. And that kind of thing. And it's there are no new TV episodes or movies in the pipeline at the moment. The David X. Cohen said. So sadly, this is what we're going to get.
Well,
but
I mean, this just shows that the way that content is consumed now is such a varied thing. I mean, it's not just television. It's not just network television. It's not just cable. It's, you're getting webisodes and you're getting Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and whatever. But also with the rise of podcasts and, the thrilling adventure hour and stuff like that, the medium of radio is coming back. I mean, and it goes back to what does Kevin Smith call his internet podcasting empire?
Oh, yeah.
Smod Entertainment or
Smodco.
Smodcast.
Excuse me. What is it? Smodcast Internet Radio.
Yeah, it's radio is right there in the name.
Right. But what kills me, what's really exciting for me is that, and I haven't said this in a really long time, is Futurama is I think my favorite animated thing. Period.
Yeah, you love it.
And I love Archer. I love Family Guy, stuff like that. But Futurama always spoke to me. I think it was the science fantasy of it all, and the satire, obviously, and just spoofing everything. Pop culture.
Two of my favorite things in animated comedy is